Hello and welcome to Jessie Bear Book Club. We like to talk about historical fiction, wild cards, Game of Thrones, and much, much more. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel.
Today, let's get back to the roots of this channel and talk about Wild Cards 14, Marked Card, the second book in the Card Sharks tirade. This video is rather special because as of today it has been 1 year since I started making book reviews and theory videos, and I'm pretty happy with myself that I've kept it up for so long. I am aware it has been quite some time since I made a Wild Cards video, and the reason is the Card Shark books are really hard to get a hold of, even online, and if you can find them online they are normally very expensive. But that is enough complaining about how elusive these books are. Let's begin the review. This book opens with Puppet Man. He is an old favourite of mine, and I was really happy this book picked up right where the last book left off. I was also very excited to see Puppet Man's powers returning. I love Hannah's sweatshirt in the opening scene, black with red letters, which says, "The rocks didn't die," and on the back it just faded away. I thought it sounded so cool I even looked up to see if it was available as merch, which it's not. So then I thought, being nerdy, I would look into seeing how much it would be to have one made, and it would be £50. And seeing as now I am redundant due to COVID-19, I won't be buying one. In this first chapter, Hartman agrees to help Hannah and Father Squid in their fight against the Card Sharks. In the second chapter, it opens with Zélie Rouge. I honestly never expected to see her again, and I was even more surprised to find out both her and Sasha are working for J. Ackroyd. I thought after the whole nightmare with Team Alice he would never want to see them again. J. Ackroyd has gone considerably up in the world since the last time we seen him. He has bought new office space with his Takesian wealth and taken Jerry Strauss on as a partner. I don't overly like these two as a detective double act, but individually I love them as characters. I just don't think they bounce off each other very well. Hartman comes and asks them to investigate the Card Sharks, but Jay refuses, knowing Hartman is secretly Puppet Man. But Jerry is interested. The next chapter is mainly Jerry following George Battle around because Puppet Man suggested that George Battle was in the Card Sharks, and Jerry has a score to settle with him because of his treatment on the rocks. Jerry uncovers a plot to steal equipment from the Jokertown clinic, and follows Battle and Crypt Kicker there to stop them, turning into a badass werewolf in the process. Jerry has much better control of his powers these days, which I'm happy to see. He manages to stop George Battle from gaining access to the equipment, but in the process they release some wild card virus and it attacks George Battle, turning him into the most horrendous Joker possible. He looks like a yellow centipede. Isn't that karma at its finest? Chapter 3 is Hartman, Hannah, and Father Squid revealing the Card Shark conspiracy to the world on Peregrine's Perch. Hartman uses it to showcase his new power, but the best bit of this chapter is after the show, when Hartman gets a phone call and somebody plays him the Jaws theme song down the phone. I had a real giggle at that. Chapter 4 moves across the world to focus on Mark Meadow and his friends and the stress they are all under while ruling Vietnam. There's a lot of conflict between the Jokers that are refugeeing from America into Vietnam and the Vietnamese people. Both sides are determined to keep their culture, and there is a massive wealth gap. Mark makes a very good point. Ethnic pride can quickly slide into ethnic cleansing. Man, what a line. It is so true, and so simply put. So many great lessons from science fiction. The mechanic from Book 1 arrives back from America, full of stories of Greg Hartman, the Card Sharks, and the growing Joker persecution. He doesn't trust Ganesh, Mark Meadows' new Joker advisor. Ganesh gave me the creeps from the beginning. He reminded me of the Prophet from the documentary Wild Wild Country. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It's on Netflix. It is insane and creepy as hell. I was not surprised when Ganesh turned out to be a paedophile, I was surprised that Mark Meadows fell for his act so hard, and thank God the mechanic was there to save Sprout, 'cause that was a chilling read when she was kidnapped by Ganesh. I wanted to jump into the book and save her myself. The whole incident makes Mark Meadows and the mechanic fall out, and Mark banishes him. I think Mark Meadows is going to regret banishing the mechanic sooner rather than later, because Mark is a dreamer and he needs somebody pragmatic like the mechanic to keep him grounded. I really grew to like the mechanic in this book, which I didn't in the last book really. He has some great one-liners, like "High Church Angelicans are just Catholic wannabes." Chapter 5 moves back to America, and I love the Sarah Morgenstern shout-out at the beginning of this chapter. Greg Hartman is falling deeply in love with Hannah because she trusts him and because she looks like his first victim. Man, does our Greggy have issues. I enjoyed the interview Hannah and Greg did for 60 Minutes, where Wallace completely refuses to admit that genocide could ever happen in the USA. They argue back and forth whether Dr. Epstein Finelli is really dead, and this chapter is only really a setup for the much longer next one, which stars our favourite homeless lady. Vagabond is living in Guatemala, and she seems to have completely regained herself as Suzanne, which is brilliant. I love her black jaguar. It is like a larger version of her old black cat. Vagabond is a favourite of mine because I love her wildcard power. I would love to be able to talk to animals. It was always a childhood dream of mine to be like Dr. Dolittle. But I think if I could understand my cat, she would be really annoying. Suzanne helps the reporter, Josh McCoy, better known as Peregrine's boyfriend, and his Joker guide, Uman, who is a reincarnation of a Mayan hero, escape the Guatemalan Marxist army, and in the process they discover the card sharks are helping the army test biological weapons to wipe out entire villages, in the process perfecting their formula for only killing wildcard victims. Dr. Finelli is working in Guatemala, working on the Black Trump virus, but it is not going well. He cannot perfect the formula, so the card sharks fly in Dr. Alvaro and Crypt Kicker to help find the 3 runaways who have photo evidence of what the card sharks are up to. This was quite an interesting part of the book because we finally got a little bit of an insight into Crypt Kicker. He turns out to be extremely religious and kept saying things like, "One of the fugitives is a devil worshipper, and witches cannot be suffered to live, the Bible says so." Maybe he has been brainwashed because he never seemed overly religious before to me, or maybe he is just a crazy undead zombie thing who does whatever people tell him. Who knows? The 3 fugitives are captured by the guerrilla army group, and the guerrilla army helps them to escape to Belize. They are attacked though at the border, and Uman kills Crypt Kicker Mayan priest style by ripping out his heart while it's still beating, which was pretty damn cool to read. They manage to escape, but Vagabond has to use her powers to the extreme, and is exhausted by it. The next chapter is Puppet Man's rebirth in all his twisted, fame-seeking, manipulative glory, and I loved it. He has a TV interview and stages himself saving a Joker, using his gifts to make sure everything goes his way, and later he uses his gift to get Hannah into bed after a fancy date at Aces High. Puppet Man is coming back into his own, and he loves it, but he knows he is getting in too deep, and can feel the lust for power coming back stronger than ever. I really enjoyed this chapter. If I'm honest, it is one of my favorite in the entire book, because I love how evil Greg Hartman / Puppet Man is. Chapter 8 jumps between Shad, who has been imprisoned since the Rocks, and Philip Baron von Herzhagen. I think that's how it is pronounced. That name has 2 H's and a Z in the middle of it, so if I've got it wrong, I've got it wrong. Shad has heard the news about Greg Hartman coming back into political power, and is so angry because he knows all about Puppet Man thanks to Bloat. We find out Croyd has been caught trying to re-enter the USA, and in a new form which can read minds. He is also imprisoned on Governor's Island, and has discovered, by reading the minds of the prison guards, that they plan to test the Black Trump virus on the prisoners. So, Croyd and Shad form an escape plan, roping in all the other inmates. While all that is going on, we find out Hertzhagen is an old-time card shark, and he is planning to kill Greg Hartman to shut him up. And we also find out a little bit of card shark history. Like, did you know Einstein was the first card shark? And Einstein had the idea of creating a virus to attack the wildcard virus. Oh, Einstein, marrying your cousin, creating viruses, what next? Hertzhagen views all wildcard victims like rabid dogs that need to be put down. We also find out that he has the last jumpers. All 3 of them. No Molly Blop though. Where did she get to? Anyway, we see that Hertzhagen is interacting with George Battle in his new Joker form, and the plan is to jump George Battle into Greg Hartman's body and use Battle inside Hartman's body to discredit him. But when they do it, Greg Hartman in the new Joker body freaks out and runs top speed out of there. He has absolutely no control over his motor functions whatsoever. The Joker body has a defense mechanism, which is top speed, any direction, I'm getting out of harm's way. We also find out that Margaret Durand, Dr. Farnelli, and Pan Rudo have all been jumped into other bodies to hide them from the government, who see them as a threat because they are all top-level card sharks. But the card sharks are now missing the key component that would have told them all the other side's plans. Greg Hartman in the Joker body. Where has he gone? Nobody knows. Shad and Croyd managed to escape the Governor's Island prison with all the other prisoners. I really loved reading this scene because you got to meet so many new Jokers and Aces. I really liked Lady Light. The name goes well with Black Shadow. They should team up in both senses of the world. Lots of the prisoners were really interesting, but the one that really stood out to me was the ace known as the Racist, a Nat prisoner of life who volunteered for wildcard experimentation and became an ace. Weird. After Shad's escape, he goes to Hartman's apartment to torture and kill him for what Puppet Man did to his mind. Shad is one fucked up dude, especially when you remember that Shad's own family were murdered and tortured beforehand. You wouldn't want to do that to somebody else if you had experienced it yourself, would you? Anyway, Shad never figures out that it is George Battle in the Hartman body, so he essentially kills George Battle, who he also hates, so that's cool. Chapter 9 has Greg Hartman waking up in the Joker body for the first time, and he quickly discovers what has happened. Freaked out, he decides to seek help from Peregrine and Oddity, but they won't talk to him because they think he is George Battle. He then realizes Hannah and Father Squid are in hiding because somebody has viciously murdered the Greg Hartman body. Discovering his real body is dead and with no Puppet Man, down on his luck with nobody to listen to him, Greg Hartman goes looking for the card sharks because he wants out of the Joker body. Even though he has campaigned for Joker's rights all his life, he cannot stand the fact he is in a yellow centipede. The next chapter is Shad and Croyd teaming up to take down Hertzhagen and his pet jumpers. Hertzhagen had a plan to jump President Barnett. We also find out Crypt Kicker regenerates pretty quick from his heart removal. Croyd and Shad managed to kill the last 3 jumpers, but I cannot keep wondering, where is Molly Blot, because she didn't die. We also find out in this chapter Minstrel got her own body back, and that makes me really happy because I like Minstrel. She's never really done anything wrong. She fights for the good guys. She did what her daddy told her. She's a good girl. Put her back in her body. Anyway, Margaret Durand goes to jail, and with a little pressure put on her by Shad, turns state witness. The chapter ends with Shad and Croyd killing Hertzhagen, and Croyd going to sleep. This chapter jumped around all over the place and was a little confusing. I had to keep going back and rereading passages to make sure I knew what had happened. Chapter 11. Greg Hartman meets up with Rudo. Well, the jumped Rudo body. And Croyd is woken up this chapter with some weird ghost power. While Hartman is in the meeting with Rudo, Croyd ghosts in through the wall and kills the Rudo body. And Hartman does his Roadrunner impression and gets the hell out of Dodge. Chapter 12 introduces us to a new ace, a woman called Zoe Harris, who we have never met before or even heard of. She is a secret ace and has never told anybody, but she has been caught by the government mandatory blood tests, and as the owner of a pharmaceutical company, her partners have taken the opportunity to frame her for embezzlement, because they know the government will do little to help anybody affected by the wild card. Both Zoe's parents are jokers and getting old, and her mother has just discovered she has breast cancer, and Zoe and her family are terrified that she will be sent to a new medical camp set up for jokers. Zoe doesn't know what to do, but befriends a group of joker street urchins, which introduce her to Charles Dutton. Charles Dutton has many fingers in many pies and pulls some strings with the twisted fists to get Zoe's parents travel to Jerusalem and safety. We also find out in this chapter through Dutton that the turtle is back in New York and will be going on Peregrine's Perch without a mask and without his shell. I really want to see some more of the great and powerful turtle. Zoe decides to meet up with the turtle, and she also gets to meet two of the Dannies. Zoe explains that she has the power to animate objects, anything, but she can only get it to work when she is very scared or very horny. They decide to test this theory out using the turtle, and then follows a very weird, very unnecessary sex scene. It was great seeing the great and powerful turtle again and discovering he is now out in the open and has written a book. That makes me feel really good. But I was sad because the turtle has been getting death threats over his actions on the rocks, and he feels very bad about causing so much death. He is also under a lot of pressure from the government to rebuild the Brooklyn Bridge, which he destroyed, and restore the Statue of Liberty out of his own pockets. They are suing him for damage to the city, even though he saved the city from the rocks, right? Zoe continues to practice her sexual tension and moving objects. This goes on for a month or two, and Zoe's mother moves to Jerusalem, but her father decides to stay behind to help Zoe see out the embezzlement charges. While they are shopping so that Zoe can get a new suit for court, her father is beaten up and murdered by a gang of skinheads. Scared for her father's life and her own, Zoe animates a shop mannequin which goes ahead and kills the attackers. Scared of what the consequences will be for a wildcard victim / ace who is killed in that, Zoe flees to Jerusalem to join her mother, discovering in the process Croyd is on the same flight. Apart from Turtle, this chapter was not my favorite by far. This chapter only seems to exist to show how the courts and the world in general are favoring Nats over wildcard victims, and that no wildcard, ace or joker, can expect a fair trial in this new America. The next chapter is Hartman, just going about trying to get people to believe that he is Hartman and not George Battle the Joker. Nobody believes him. Depressed and desperate after months and months of trying, he decides to make a deal with Brandon Van Rensselaer to give them Hannah because he has tracked her down in exchange for a new body. But at the last moment he realizes he cannot go through with it. In a redemption arc, he is responsible for all of Puppet Man's actions, and without the gift he cannot bring himself to do any bad things. I just think it's because there's no emotional payoff for him. But, you know, redemption arcs are redemption arcs in books, and we're meant to like them, but I just want evil Puppet Man. Is that so much to ask? Hartman goes to meet Brandon Van Rensselaer to tell him the deal is off, but their plot has been exposed, and they are both captured by the new improved Pan Rudo. Pan then delivers a Bond villain type speech, where he explains to Hartman the master plan of everything that is going to happen and how they are going to release the Black Trump virus. He also dashes all Hartman's hopes for a new body, explaining all the jumpers are dead. The final long chapter in this book focuses on Clara Van Rensselaer becoming the head of the Jokertown Clinic. Clara, of course, is the daughter of Brandon Van Rensselaer and Lamia from the last book. She is also a member of the Card Sharks, and their main researcher in developing the Black Trump virus, which she is about to have success on. She just needs some of Dr. Tachyon's notes, and that is why she is now working at the Jokertown Clinic. These are the same notes that Crypt Kicker and George Battle were after earlier in the book. She goes through a 180-degree turn, realizing jokers are people too, because she discovers her mother is a joker. She thought her mother died of the wild card. It is very touching. She also falls madly in love with Dr. Finn, our favourite centaur. This whole plotline was so predictable. What was not predictable, and completely ruined this chapter for me, was the strange interspecies love session we had. Catherine the Great of Russia springs to mind. I did not need to know that much about horses' penises. Moving on. Clara, Dr. Finn and Lamia are all captured by the Card Sharks, and they threaten to hurt Dr. Finn and Lamia if Clara does not continue her work on the Black Trump virus, which she has nearly perfected. When they take her to the lab, she pulls a ruse and manages to destroy most of the perfected Black Trump virus, but there is still some left. The virus that is left will die out after 3 or 4 transmissions, but everyone who comes in contact with it who has the wild card will die a horrible death. Clara, Dr. Finn and Lamia manage to escape the Card Sharks, and they save the Joker Hartman in the process. This chapter was interesting because you got to see the long-term effects of the wild card, because Clara is very hung up on the fact that Blythe got the virus. She also is hung up on the fact that her mother got it, until, the whole redemption, jokers are people bit. It was an interesting domino effect, however, even if it was predictable. The final chapter is all about Joker Hartman getting everyone to believe him that he is Hartman, that he really is Hartman, that he isn't George, and then everyone feels bad for shunning him for the last 6 months. But who really cares? I want Puppet Man! Anyway, Hartman decides to devote the rest of his life to helping jokers for the right reasons. I guess we'll see how that will all play out in the next book. This book was nowhere near as good as Wildcard 13, Card Sharks. It was all over the place with story and plot development, and I really disliked the Puppet Man redemption arc. I like my Greg Hartman evil and manipulative. I give this book 6 out of 10. It is a good bridging book, and there are some interesting bits. I liked the Vagabond chapter, I liked the Mark Meadows chapter, and I liked the early chapters with Greg Hartman. I really want to read the next book in the series, Wildcards 15 Black Trumps, but it is almost impossible to get your hands on, and if there is a copy, it is really expensive. There is also no digital copies that I've been able to find, so if anybody knows where I could get a cheapish copy or a digital copy, let me know in the comments below, please. I did think for a while I had found a copy of Black Trumps on Amazon for £30, and I was very happy with myself. I bought it, but the person I bought it from was running a scam, and they sent me a second copy of Marked Card, then refused to take the book back. So if anybody wants to buy these books, keep a good eye out. I haven't been able to get a copy of Wildcards 15 Black Trumps, and that is why I've fallen off the Wildcards bandwagon a bit. I am still scouring the internet weekly for the next book in the series. I know I could just move on to book 16, but I like reading things in order. So, until next time, I hope your card doesn't turn, and I hope I can find a copy of Black Trumps. Bye!